Hey there, everybody. Welcome. Welcome on in. In case you did not see the notification in the Facebook group, and those of you on YouTube may not realize that is later than it was originally going to be. It was scheduled originally at 1 p.m. Pacific, but that just didn't work. The day got kind of chaotic today, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to pre-plan, and so we're doing this later than expected, but still here. So, as you jump on in, say hello. I always like to know where people are watching from. So if you feel like it, share or let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what we're here for. What this live chat is all about is for tonight's, or the full moon. We have the Aries full moon tonight, so I'll be chatting a little bit about that. I have some updates to give you guys and some information as always to share. So I'm actually still in the process of setting everything up here, making sure I have all my notes. So if you have any questions along the way, or just anything you want to chat about or learn about, get some feedback or answers to, please feel free to jot it down in the chat and I will get to it. So I think, let's see, am I all set up for everything here? I think so. Just, yeah. Feeling a little bit, big yawn. That's not so much because I'm sleepy, but if you guys don't know, that's also just moving energy when you yawn like that, right? Just move some energy through and out and just shift it around a little bit. And let's see. I think we're all set. So first of all, let me give you an update. I didn't change the what's it called? Oh my gosh, my brain's a little scattered. I didn't change the event, the graphic for the event. So it said coffee, conversation, and coaching. Well, these the new moon and full moon chats they will now be rebranded because I shared a poll in the Facebook group. So those of you on YouTube, if you're not in the group, would not have seen it, but I shared a poll providing some new name options for these, just to kind of make everything more in line with the name of the group, with kind of like the stuff that we do and what the lives are for. So instead of coffee, conversation, and coaching, the graphics from now on and the name of these moon lives will be Moon Manifesting Mentoring. Let me make sure I got that right. I'm pretty sure I did. I did post a graphic, which is fun because I love alliteration. So the 3 M's, Moon Manifesting Mentoring, really resonates with me. It more aligns with the name of the group as well. So that is the first update, or an update, new name for these lives. And again, also more in line with what we do. I just share a little bit of information, answer questions. You can get some mentoring and feedback and coaching and all the things still. You can also come on with me if you choose. It is not a requirement at all. But if you want to join in and be on screen here with me, just let me know in the comments and I will put a link that will invite you on to StreamYard with me. And this is not available, obviously, on the replay. So if you guys are watching the replay later on, this is a live only option. But these calls happen at different times of day and different days of the week, depending on when the new moon and full moon fall. So Let's see. Where am I at here? All right. I'm just going to give myself a second. See, more yawning. Whew. It's been hectic. And the reason that I am late or we had to reschedule is because I was asked to cover for someone at work. And I work remotely, 100% remotely, but I was asked to cover some just some task scheduling and things like that that I had not planned for. And I was just asked yesterday. So I didn't get a chance to kind of move things around too much. So that's why we're later, but that's okay. I just want to also make sure that I can see the comments here on my phone from the Facebook group, um, and make sure we're all set so that we can start talking about the Aries full moon and all the good stuff about it, or a lot of the good stuff about it. Here we go. Okay, turn down the volume. I just need to see comments. All right. So if you guys set new moon intentions a couple weeks ago or so, we were in the Virgo new moon. We've now moved into Libra, and I'm sorry. Yeah, Libra, Libra season. Today's my dad's birthday. He's a Libra. And my sister's birthday is next week, and she's a Libra. So we're now in Libra season, but the new moon 2 weeks ago was the Virgo new moon. And so today we have the Aries full moon. And if you're new to these lives or to these recordings, I do a live for the new moon and then the full moon. So I'm not really going to talk a whole lot about the new moon because there is a replay available for that. It remains up. And so the Aries new moon is actually tonight. And so looking at just kind of how it works around, how we work around the zodiac and work with the moons, the new moon and the full moon are in opposite signs. And so it happens, the new moon and the full moon are together. The sun and the moon are close together, so they're in the same sign when we have the new moon. And then 2 weeks later, which is now, they are across from each other, looking at, the way, if you look at a diagram. And so the full light of the sun is shining on to the moon, the face of the moon. And so we see the full moon in the sky, and that is now reflecting the sun's light in a much softer way. So we get this beautiful full moon that's illuminated by the sun, and then the moon reflects that sunlight down to us in a much softer way. So if you hadn't really thought about it that way, the moonlight is really just a softer version of sunlight. So that's a whole other topic and a whole other live that we could probably get into at some other time. So the Aries new moon was 6 months ago. So we have whatever zodiac sign the new moon is in. The full moon of that same sign is going to be 6 months later. And so you can use this because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. If you look at the zodiac calendar, so the Aries new moon is the beginning of the zodiac calendar when it comes to working with the lunar cycle, the moons. And so now we are 6 months in to the lunar calendar, the zodiac calendar, if you will. So you can use this full moon to look all the way back to about 6 months ago in April. We actually had 2 Aries new moons this year, which does not happen very often. Every couple years or so, we'll have a new moon, 2 new moons in the same sign back to back. So we had 2 6 and 7 months ago. And so you can look back at that time and see what was going on then. If you set Aries new moon intentions, you can see how far they have come to fruition, how they have played out, and is it working, or does it need to be tweaked a little bit, or did you forget all about it and you don't even remember? Because I say that because I was in that boat, and sometimes I still am in that boat where I was like, what did I do? What was I working on? What did I do? So it's a good thing I write down my new moon intentions in my journal. But it's just a good time to reflect. And it's 6 months after the last Aries new moon. It's also 6 months before the next Aries new moon. So if you look at this whole year cycle that way, with any zodiac sign, you can say, hey, what do I want to get out of the way? What do I want to start letting go of so that I can maybe set a new year intention if you follow the zodiac calendar in 6 months from now in April. And so that's a great way to look at the lunar cycle. And I'm not going to get too much into how you can apply the lunar cycle to the whole year, because one, I did a podcast episode. I'm kind of doing it in real time through each season. So I just did a podcast episode about the third quarter moon phase of the year, which is the fall season, which is what we're in now. And also I have another event coming up that I will be speaking at next weekend, where I talk exclusively about that, creating a calendar and creating a personal flow and calendar and relationship with the lunar cycle. So I will share that event with you a little bit later on. So we're 6 months after and 6 months before the Aries new moon. So with this Aries full moon, because the full moon is a time where it is a time to let go, release, forgive, all the things. And as you create that space, that energetic space, when you do that, then it's appropriate, or it's a good thing, to fill it in with something else, replace it with some type of positive, stuff. If you're clearing out the gunk, so to speak, what is the good stuff that you want to replace it with? And that can be in the form of gratitude, appreciation, intentions and affirmations, and what you will be doing, what action steps you will be doing, getting clear on those. And this is a process that repeats, and you can apply it to an entire year, or like we're doing this time around, apply it to a lunar cycle. I'm looking for the fan. These lights make it hot. So let me turn on the fan, get that going, get some air circulating. So really, if you guys have any questions about setting intentions, and actually any questions about working with the lunar cycle, please ask me those in the comments, because I'm not going to go specifically over that every single time. But if there's someone that has questions, I definitely want to answer those and address those for you. So let me go over some themes that might come up, or that you might want to intentionally work with the Aries full moon. There we go. Stop the fan. Okay. So some themes that go along with the Aries full moon. This is a good time to step into, see where you might need to call some courage. Aries themes are courage, taking action, starting things. And so what did you start, or what were you thinking about starting 6 months ago, or at the new moon 2 weeks ago? And what action steps have you taken? Are you noticing any resistance? Are you noticing any kind of procrastination, or not taking those action steps, and then identifying why? Is it from uncertainty? Is it from fear? Is it from doubt? Is it because old stories are coming up and getting in the way? Is it because you don't have belief in yourself, or belief that what you're working towards or what you want is even possible for you? And if so, here's a good check-in point. If you're noticing these things, like, I'm not taking action, these things are standing in my way, I'm allowing, I know that I'm procrastinating, I know that I'm self-sabotaging, and awareness of that is fabulous. It's great. Now, how are you reacting to that? Because Aries can be very feisty and fiery. I am an Aries, so I know this. I've experienced this. So how are you reacting when you notice these things, like you're not taking steps, are you judging yourself? Are you like being hard on yourself, being angry with yourself? Or are you possibly saying these things are happening to me and that's why I can't do this, why I can't take the actions? Are you deflecting that and really not taking responsibility for the fact that you haven't taken action? Because not taking action is always our own doing or not doing, not taking action. And so it's very common, and I can speak to this personally, when things didn't happen, it's like, oh, well, the circumstances weren't right, or the thing that I was waiting for didn't happen, or someone or something else took longer than I thought, so I really couldn't do the thing that I wanted to do. And that is always an excuse. And noticing and not noticing, being aware of that and owning that is really some really good work to be doing at this time. So, taking responsibility and ownership for what we have and have not done, and saying, okay, it doesn't feel great that I haven't taken these actions. I'm noticing that maybe I'm beating myself up a little bit. But why? Why didn't you take the action? That's always the question to look at. What is the thing that kept me in an old pattern? What is the thing that kept me in an old habit? Is it a story? Is it something someone said to me? Is it a belief? And a lot of this stuff might not easily come to mind. So, journaling is a great way of getting maybe accessing those answers. If you're in the Moon Manifesting Rockstars Facebook group, I posted earlier today a list of journal prompts that you can look through, see which one, if any of them kind of resonate with you, and work through them and see what answers come up for you. And before I move on to more of like full moon activities and things to do, I want to ask a question because I'm really good at asking questions. So I come up with great questions that is, I think, directly related to my work and background as a claims investigator, learning how to ask really good questions. But looking at this Aries full moon with the things being courage and leadership and taking action, action, confidence, and leadership. Those are some really appropriate and very Aries like themes. So, what am I at here? So, a question to ask yourself at this full moon, which is when you release things first to create space and replace it with something better, what do you need to stop doing in order to experience more of whatever it is that you want? So, if you want to have more happiness, more fun, more time, what is it that you need to stop doing in order to have more of that? And that could be habits that get in your way, right? Like scrolling or allowing yourself to give in to other distractions, not setting boundaries, time boundaries, relationship, an example that I experienced before when I was still living with my previous with my ex. I was working from home and I said, I need from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, that 4-hour span, without the TV being on, because my workspace was in the living room. So I said, I need like this 4-hour block of time so that I can work without having the TV on and distractions and all that thing. And then I can prioritize the things that need more of my attention during that block of time and work on less things that are, that it's okay for me to have background noise on and it didn't affect me as impact me as much. So that was a boundary that I communicated. And so are there boundaries that you need to establish for yourself so that you can stop doing whatever it is that you need to stop in order to have more of what you want. And something that maybe, I don't know, if at least for me, it was not really readily obvious, or wasn't like just like, oh, well, of course. When we stop doing something, right? It can sometimes take courage to stop doing that. It takes courage to acknowledge, say, hey, I'm allowing myself to doom scroll and waste time and do all these things that are actually keeping me from having more time freedom, that are keeping me from having more time to go and do the fun things that I want to do, or to fit more of like hobbies and activities and recreation in. So you might need to draw on some courage to help you stop doing the thing that you want. Scrolling, that may or may not be a good example, but look at something like stopping a habit like smoking. I've done that as well. So that doesn't come easily all the time. That there are let's see, what are some things that we could think of? What might someone need to stop doing that would require courage? Stop saying yes. Stop saying yes to people all the time. Stop agreeing and taking on too many responsibilities and taking on too many activities that also eat up that time that you might be looking for. So saying no to people's requests can definitely require courage because it feels uncomfortable. And that's the part that we don't always hear about. Like, I'm sure you've heard a phrase like, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, or discomfort is part of the process. But this is more of a tangible way. It's like when you take an action to stop doing something, or you make a decision to stop doing something so that you can have something more of what you desire, it might take courage. And that's because it's going to feel uncomfortable. And knowing that ahead of time, for me, created like a lifting, like a shift. It's like, okay, I know it's going to be uncomfortable to say no to people, or I know it's going to be uncomfortable to establish boundaries and not give in to the arguments like I used to, or not allow myself to get pulled into the same old conversation, the same old argument, because it's not serving me, but it's what I'm used to doing. And so finding the ways, finding the strategies to say no, to walk away, to disengage, or not even be in the same vicinity takes courage. So this Aries full moon, as you're looking for the things that you need to stop doing, you can look at that and say, okay, I'm in this energy of the Aries full moon that I can tap into the courage to communicate those boundaries. I can tap into the courage to establish a game plan. This is very relevant coming up to the holiday season for a lot of people, because there are a lot of circumstances that people either do things out of habit or out of obligation, or because it's the way it's always been, but it's not really fulfilling and it's not really joyful. And it might not even be the thing you really want to be doing, but it feels, or it might feel very uncomfortable to say or communicate that I really don't want to do it. Especially if you're the person maybe hosting, maybe you're someone that hosts all these things out of the way it's always been, or you feel obligated, or it's expected of you to do these things. Well, if you really don't want to be doing it and it doesn't fulfill you and bring you joy, and instead it brings you anxiety and chaos and fatigue and all these things that are not balanced out by a positive result or a positive feeling or a positive payoff, then it will definitely require communication to stop doing that. Saying, I don't want to host this year. And I have an example that's not that extreme, but when I lived in the Midwest, there were, several years that I didn't come back to California for Thanksgiving because either, my mom, we would trade off sometimes visiting who goes where, or if I was coming for Christmas instead, I didn't do, travel for Thanksgiving very often. And so there was a year that a friend of mine who was also had family out of state, her and her son were not traveling out, back home either. And I think there was a couple other people from work, because like our workplace had people that had transferred from several different areas. And so what I decided to do, because it wasn't a huge group, was to say, hey, well, come over to my house for Thanksgiving. I lived out in the country there. I had, space to do that and really to have to do some fun outdoor activities too, because I lived out in the country. But I have never, even to this day, I have never cooked a turkey. I have an extended family of several aunts and grandparents, previously that they love doing that. They do that. And so I never learned. I never learned how to cook a turkey. And for the few people that were coming to my house, I was not going to learn how to cook a turkey. It's not something that was in my desire. I didn't have a desire to learn. So what I decided to do was to have a taco bar for our Thanksgiving dinner. And one of my girlfriends was like, brilliant. I love it. No worries at all. A couple other people were like, we're not going to have turkey. I'm like, well, not at my house. Not at my house. We're not going to have turkey. We're going to have a taco bar because I can pull that off. No problem. Have like a different, condiments and just have the taco shells all pre-made and all these things. So I could pull that off. No problem. It wasn't an outlandish number of people, but there were people that I told, like when we were telling people what our plans were. And I had some like almost disgruntled people like, what do you mean you're not having turkey? Why don't you just order a turkey dinner if you don't want to cook it? I'm like, well, I kind of now am looking forward to having a taco bar. And so because a turkey dinner is what's expected for Thanksgiving, for those, that celebrate traditionally, so to speak. So I threw it off kilter. It was a taco bar Thanksgiving, but we had all the Thanksgiving decorations and all the things. And it was actually fabulous. And it was much easier to clean up from. And we had a great time. People could get whatever they wanted on their tacos. I didn't have to worry about serving and this and that. And I myself enjoyed it. But initially, people were a little thrown off by it because it's not what the normal is. And so that really isn't so much an example of needing courage. That was just kind of like, well, I don't care. It's my house. You don't have to come have tacos if it really bothers you. But doing things differently or taking the initiative and saying, I don't want to do things this way, or it doesn't bring me joy to go to this family event all the time, or this person, I know this person will try to, because that's what they're used to as well, have the same conversation and maybe lead to the same arguments. And so it takes courage to break that cycle. And establishing boundaries is something that you do for yourself. They may need to be communicated, like the example I shared where I said I need from 10 to 2. That was a boundary I did need to communicate because otherwise I would be expecting him to read my mind, and that's not reasonable either. But there are other boundaries that do not need to be communicated, like establishing a game plan for yourself when certain person starts in on the same old thing, or when someone gets to the point where they've had, too much to drink, or whatever the case is, whatever the routine is, having a plan for yourself. Like, well, maybe I'm going to go outside and go for a walk, or maybe I'm going to go hang out, with someone else and play with the kids, or take the dog for a walk. That is a boundary that you establish for yourself. You know ahead of time what you're going to do and then go do it. Now, it might kind of throw the other person off, or they might be like, well, what the hell? What the hell's going on? Or what are you doing? And it's like, well, You don't need to explain yourself. She's like, I'm going for a walk. You might say something like, it's the same conversation and I don't want to have it, but that's entirely up to you. Having a game plan takes a little bit, not all, takes a little bit of the edge off of that that discomfort, because at least you know what you're going to do. It will probably still feel uncomfortable doing it, and it will feel awkward if it's something that is really foreign to you. But knowing ahead of time, instead of waiting until the moment and then trying to figure something out when you're already getting upset or when you already find yourself getting pulled into the argument, makes it a little easier having that plan. Now, it's not impossible if you find yourself, oh man, I'm getting dragged into this argument, taking a moment and saying, you know what, I need to go to the restroom, and then just go out for a walk afterwards, or whatever the case is. Those are just very simple, easy to reference examples. So there's going to be discomfort in this process, likely, of stopping the things that you know you need to stop so that you can have more of what you want. And the reason it can be uncomfortable also is just because it's not normal. It's like learning to, trying to write left-handed when you've been a right-handed writer all your life, right? That's not something that's going to, earth-shattering, but you can relate to that feeling of, oh man, I haven't done this way. It feels really weird. How the hell do I hold the pen? So simply because it's doing things differently than you've done historically or for an extended period of time, it's going to feel awkward. But the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you get to a point where it becomes second nature. It becomes second nature when you notice yourself being pulled into an argument or when something upsets you, to take that pause and then go do something else or whatever your game plan is. So with this Aries full moon, that is basically the overarching question that I would leave you with. What do you need to stop doing in order to experience more of what you do want? And use this Aries courage energy to help you stop doing the thing while fully aware and knowing that it will feel uncomfortable. But the discomfort will not last, and the result is so worth that discomfort. And then you can start calling in and attracting and creating space for what it is you do want. So that's really the short and sweet, simple question with this Aries full moon. Also, you can always look back at the last 2 weeks. What resistance have you noticed? What procrastination? And dig down, investigate, and see where this is coming from. Where it's coming from, because this is full moon time, is also the shadow work time, if you're familiar with that term. And the reason that the full moon is the time of shadow work is because when the moon is its biggest and fullest and brightest, that's when shadows are seen. Shadows aren't so much created in the dark so much, but you see shadows when the light is bright, right? Like when the sun in the summer, or when the sun is up, full, that's when you notice the shadows, when there's light to actually create those shadows. So when you notice the things that are standing in your way, you notice the procrastination, you notice the things, the habits and the patterns that are keeping you from doing the things you know you need to do, ask yourself, where is this coming from? And think back. Don't think recent. Think back. When have I felt like this before? Or what is the story that this is stemming from? Is it, a comment that someone made to me that made me feel silly for speaking up? So now I don't speak up, and I know I need to speak up and communicate my boundaries or say something that I know needs to be said, but I keep myself from doing it. The story of speaking up makes me feel silly, or they made me feel bad, or they made me feel stupid for saying something. That's the story. It's never from the current instance. it's always from something in the past that has created this story and this response or this reaction to that thing. So that's pretty much all I have. I didn't see any questions come on. I saw you guys, a few of you guys jumping on and off, which is why the replay is absolutely perfect. But I wanted to share with you something from mine. From my morning, I pull a card. Actually, I started pulling 2 cards recently. One for I ask a question in my journal, like, who am I today? And I pull a tarot card. And then I also pull an oracle card that is moon themed because, all about the moon. And so I don't think I have the box here in front of me. Do I? Well, I have the book. So I can show you that. So the tarot card I pulled is from, I think this is right side for you, the Lightseers deck, and I pulled the wheel of fortune, basically. And like this is, she's standing on top of it. Anything's possible. And then I also pulled, to go along with that, from the Moonology messages. This is a newly released deck. I pulled Moonlit, Embrace Uncertainty. And the reason I share that with you is because I have not done a lunar lessons podcast episode for a couple of lunar cycles. And the reason, which I had been doing it every month. And the reason being is because I was like, what is the lesson? I don't even know. I'm taking actions and I don't really even have clarity. And there was a couple times where I'm like, I don't even have, I have a general idea of what I'm working towards, but I don't have a full vision of that. And so I felt like, what am I taking action for? What is the thing I'm working towards? What is the intention that I'm setting? And so this one really resonated to me, embrace the uncertainty. And these together, anything is possible, right? Anything can happen. We don't know what's happening. So anything can happen in the uncertainty. And so for me, I'm like, okay, then I just need to get comfortable with not knowing. Keep taking actions that are moving me in the direction, not just for the sake of taking action, not busy work. And I really noticed that I felt myself getting caught up in that. Well, just doing for the sake of doing, as opposed to, am I liking what I'm doing? What is the reason that I'm doing this? So I have eliminated several things in the last week or so. And then this card at the full moon, like anything's possible in uncertainty, invites me to embrace and look at that with positivity instead of like frustration. So I think this would be a good, jump back in this lunar cycle to lunar lessons, where it's like, you know what, I just needed to take a step back and embrace the uncertainty and be okay with not knowing exactly what the thing is, not knowing exactly what the intention is, but being intentional about the things that I do. And this is something I spoke about early on, at least early in the year, somewhere around there, about being intentional was really how I got through a really challenging part. I didn't set intentions, but I was very intentional about what I was doing, like journaling every day and incorporating movement in my day and the things that I know benefit me. And that helped me navigate through a pretty crappy, challenging time about a year ago. And so that's coming back up for me. It's like there is absolutely infinite possibilities in the unknown and in that uncertainty. And I can't know what all those are. I'm not that. I know I'm not an omniscient being, so I can't know what all those are, but they will be presented to me, the opportunities and the next steps, as I intentionally take steps and work on tasks and activities that actually benefit me. So that's that for the Aries full moon this month. If you guys who are watching this on the replay have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I do want to let you know that the event that I talked about, where I will be presenting next Saturday, which I believe is the 7th. I believe that is the 7th. Let's see. What are we at? We're in September, so next week is October. Saturday, October 7th, I will be presenting at a virtual conference. And my topic is actually creating your own rhythm and a calendar, your own personal relationship with the lunar cycle. And if you want to access that, it's a conference with 13 people presenting over 2 days, with one bonus one on Thursday to kind of kick everything off. And then you'll keep access to all of the materials. And I will put the link to that in the chat here. I know I can do it on YouTube. I have to do it. Actually, I should say I need to do it on YouTube while I'm live, because I tried putting things in the chat last time and it did not work. I could only put it in like the comments of the video, but I couldn't access the chat anymore. So I'm going to do the chat while we're here live, so I don't have to worry about that, and put the link to next week's conference. Why am I not getting the right link? Let's see. Season of the Witch, the Halloween season, witchy season. All right, there's the link. So I'm going to put it on YouTube right now so that I don't have to figure it out and navigate it later. On Facebook, I can do it afterwards. It's here. Okay, so there's the link on YouTube, and then I will put it in Facebook after I finish. So if you have questions on the replay, please just jot them down in the comments, and I will come back around and answer them. And other than that, have a awesome evening and an awesome Aries full moon. I will talk to you guys later. Take care.